Girls are seen and not heard. HR was not in my plan at all. I had not even thought about it. Young professionals need to be aware of how we think, how we learn, and about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. I hate liars. I hate apathy. 90% is the transferring the learning to the workplace.
This is a conversation I have with my husband every day. Hello everyone, welcome to the NxtWave podcast. In today's episode, we will be discussing the intersection of beliefs, mindset, and success, and how much they impact careers and life itself. I am very excited to explore these ideas and more with a very special guest today, Ms. Asha Menon, a global leader in talent development and transformation. With decades of experience in building high-performance teams and leading growth, Ms. Asha brings a wealth of insight into what it truly takes to succeed and lead in today's world. Welcome to the podcast, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So before we dive in, would you like to tell us a little bit about your own journey from studying at Bangalore University to now leading global talent management and learning and development at Micron? How has the journey been?
It's been a kick-ass journey, I would say, because it's been decades of working and serving organizations, both as an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. I started my career way back in the 90s, right? So that's a long time back. And I think that's an era where the dot-com boom just happened. Technology was on the rise, and I think the market hadn't yet opened up to global players, right? We didn't have an open market system at that point in time. Entrepreneurship was also just slowly catching up. The environment that was there at that point in time to what it is today is very different. So I think my learning curve has been tremendous, thanks to even experiencing leadership. So I had the privilege of starting my career with a company called Wipro GE Medical Systems. I'm sure most of you are aware of that in Bangalore. So I had the privilege of experiencing leadership from stalwarts like Prasanna, right? Vivek Paul, amazing people with an amazing sense of integrity, humility, and innovation. I've tasted that, and it was a great place for me to start my career. And today, I think leadership has gone a long way. So I think as we go along, you'll discover the nuances of that. And I hope we have something to share to our audience today in terms of what they can take away, especially as a young professional starting their career in an era where AI is kind of taking over.
Yes, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. And I'm really sure that by the end of this podcast, our viewers will have great many insights, not only for themselves, but how to apply what they've learned into their careers and their lives.
I hope so.
So I'm going to be starting this podcast with a very fundamental question. What is mindset and what are belief systems? How are they same or different?
Great question. I think if you look at mindset, and if I look back as to how did we all start to learn, right? So as children, we were observing others, we were listening, and we were engaging with our environment. And that's how learning began for all of us as human beings, right? And then whether we like it or not, what happens is that the brain is structured or naturally start to look for patterns. The brain looks for patterns, and then what happens is that the brain tries to add stories to it and makes it our storyline. And then that's how belief systems are formed. For example, I grew up in a home where I was told by my mom that girls are seen and not heard, right? So what does that mean for me? It means that I need to not be loud. I need to not speak up. And that's the tenet I grew up with. Of course, I rebelled. That's a different story altogether. So you see, that's how mindsets are formed, belief systems are formed. To your point in terms of are they the same? Not really. Your belief systems decides whether you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, right? And I think there's no question of saying that I can only be one. No matter how experienced you are or how learned you are, it's a journey. And I think the important aspect is to how do I catch myself when I'm having a fixed mindset? How can I have an awareness that, hey, I think that's a fixed mindset. Like if I say, hey, I can't do it. When I'm asked to do something, I say, I don't think I can do it. Who am I? I need to ask myself, is that a growth mindset or is that a fixed mindset? And then I can be self-aware, catch myself in that, and then make the transition. So it's a daily journey. And I think as leaders, if we create that environment where we're creating that space for people to be aware, make those transitions and make it easy for them to transition from one mindset to the other, we've done a lot.
All right. So your belief systems inform your mindset, and your mindset also in turn somehow influences your beliefs.
Absolutely.
And these are the things that we should watch and be aware of every day.
Every day. Every day.
All right. You have led learning and development at some of the world's top organizations. In your experience, how has mindset or beliefs shaped career trajectories? Can you explain both for early career professionals and for seasoned leaders?
Again, fantastic question. I think what I've seen is over the years, for example, now, as a leader who handles global talent management and development, is that we start right from onboarding, right? So when you meet with freshers or those who just enter the industry, most of the time is like you go back to what you have studied, right? You say, okay, I've learned Python, so I need to work in a project that is probably implementing that. And I think that's a fixed mindset, because nothing wrong. It's just that maybe the technology is changing. Maybe the business model in the organization is changing. So how can I be aware of that, right? So I feel that it's the duty of the leaders and the learning and development team to be able to keep them updated on that. That, hey, while you have come with XYZ education, it need not necessarily go in a straight linear path. Right? Be open to learning, be open to understanding what works, be open to networking. And so that's the role that we play in making sure that the information is being provided and we are guiding them along the way, right? So that it's not X plus Y is equal to Z. It's not that straightforward. So that's what I've seen. As far as leadership is concerned as well, I think as leaders, we can either empower and be enablers of our teams, or we can be quite a detractor. And unfortunately, both exist. Right? Both exist, whether we like it or not. And the question is, as a leader, am I enabling my team to be the best? Am I enhancing their best potential? Can I believe in them beyond what they believe in themselves? I think that's what I do my best to try and do, is that I've always tried to invest into my teams. And leaders can also be a detractor when they say, hey, it's never been done before. Right? I may have a team member with some fantastic ideas who wants to do something differently, and the first thing I shoot it down by saying, hey, that's never been done. Sorry, let's not go there. So is it because I'm risk averse? Is it because I'm afraid to fail? So that's what we need to stop ourselves from doing. And that's where learning comes in, and that's where coaches come in. We try to make people aware of these elements and say that, hey, maybe we can look at it differently. Maybe we can explore, maybe we can take risk up to a certain point, right? As long as we are able to understand the cost to the risk that we're taking. And it's not a cost to the organization or the cost to the team, but can I take it up to a certain point and then, of course, walk away if I feel that it's not working out. So I think that balance is what is important.
Wonderfully explained. Thank you so much. Going back to your own personal journey, was there a moment where a mindset shift drastically changed everything for you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I've had the amazing privilege of having mentors. I would say giants who've gone before me, whose shoulders I've kind of stood on and kind of learned from. So when I started my career, I was talking about Wipro GE Medical Systems. I think that was an amazing organization. I saw some fantastic leaders. So I had basically done my graduation in mass communication, journalism, and psychology. So obviously, I joined the communication team. HR was not in my plan at all. I had not even thought about it. But my CHRO, with whom I would have one-to-one, because I was handling communication and I was sharing my findings with my CHRO, he was the one who actually said, hey, Asha, I find people feeling very, very free in sharing things with you. I find people comfortable even if it's a VP. And you're able to bring out their stories. I think you should explore HR. So that was something that I was like, oh, really? But I'm glad that I gave it a thought. I'm glad that I even pursued it. And he gave me the opportunity to pursue it right there in Wipro GE. So if he hadn't given me that opportunity, I don't think I would have been here. I would have probably been doing something else. But I guess that was my thing. So that changed my career trajectory completely. I do leverage my strengths in communication even today. But HR and people, I find, is where I love to be, because people at the end of the day are very, very complicated people, right? Are very complicated. And dealing with them, learning from them, trying to unwire, rewire, relearn is a journey which I haven't stopped learning from.
So, from one insight that you wholeheartedly accepted and grew into, I think you've built a very beautiful career from there on.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm still learning.
Yeah. So, going back to early career professionals who are just starting out in their careers, how important do you think is that they first work on unlearning their own self-limiting beliefs before learning a new skill? Is it important to tackle this first, or does it come a little later?
Yes, I think this is something like when we talked about the human brain and how we learn, I don't think there is a first and a second kind of an approach, is the way I look at it. The way I see it is that it's an ongoing journey. It has to happen all the time. One is young professionals need to be aware of how we think, how we learn, and about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. That has to come in, that awareness has to be set in. After the awareness, it's an ongoing process of giving them opportunities to unlearn. Because when I talked about the belief system, right, what happens when we have beliefs is that we make a lot of assumptions.
Correct.
Like, I feel that I am not supposed to be doing this. Hey, that's not me, that's not in my paycheck, somebody else has to do that. So these are things which we have to challenge all the time. We have to challenge and then reframe our perspective. And that's a continuous process. So I think the first step for young professionals is to be aware that this exists. The second thing is, how do we create an environment where there are people, and they, as a peer system, and from a leadership point of view as well, we can create an ecosystem where they're always given that opportunity to identify, challenge, reframe, and continue again. So that's the thing. So I feel it's an ongoing journey. I'm being challenged by my daughters even today. So the learning never stops.
I love that you have mentioned about opportunities to identify and outgrow these limiting beliefs. That way, I mean, the way you framed it, any idea or any challenge that these people come across, they can either look at it as an obstacle or, hey, is there something I need to learn from here?
Absolutely.
So I love that you framed it that way.
Beautifully said. Yes, absolutely. Everything is an opportunity.
Yes. If you have the right mindset to look at it like that.
Absolutely. And if I don't have the right mindset, can you challenge me, please? I'm giving you the free pass. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, in your experience, what are some of these limiting beliefs that you identified that block people, even though they are really, really skilled? What are these limiting beliefs that block people from progressing in their career?
Yeah, unfortunately, there can be quite a lot. And we all come from very unique backgrounds. Each one of us has a very unique story, right? And not everything has gone well for all of us. So I think it's important for us to be empathetic about that, is that yes, we are all different. The second thing is that it could be simple things like, for example, a technical expert may feel that, hey, I'm a technical geek. I don't want to pursue leadership. So why do I even need to worry about soft skills? You know, that's a standard statement I come across. And the question is, the soft skills, unfortunately, are not soft. They're very hard. Because you have to be challenging yourself. You have to do a lot of reflection. You have to be willing to be taught. You have to be willing to listen, right? So those are some of the limiting beliefs that I come across. The other ones are, of course, things like, I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I'm already got so much to do. The point is, am I looking at my day and saying that what really excites me? You know, what makes me excited about getting up and going to work? And am I focusing my energy there? Because if I am, I won't have to worry about time. I will find a way to get it done. And I think I've always tried my best to be in roles, to be in organizations where I'm passionately able to deliver. I don't want to be boxed. I want to be able to have that autonomy to be able to add value, because if I'm not adding value, then I question my very existence in the organization or in that role. So I think these are the aspects that how do we ensure that even if we have a limiting belief like I can't do it, I don't have the time, that's not meant for me, and all of that. It can also be simple things like a project fails, and then you say that, how do we typically handle failure? Do I point my fingers at my stakeholders? Do I point my fingers at my team? Do I say, hey, they didn't tell me this? I often hear that, right? I was not told. So my question is, did you ask? Right? So we don't ask. We just wait to be informed. How do we take accountability for actually finding the answers? Can I get up and move and talk to people and figure it out? So I think these are the limiting beliefs that all of us have been plagued with at one point or the other. So it's always, so that's why that the role of learning is something that I chose to stay in. I mean, when I started my career, it was general HR and business partnering, and then I got into learning at Deutsche Bank when I was actually heading the function, and I realized, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, because it's something which is so forward-looking, and I think that's the role that learning plays. Is that it's not just about creating content and putting them in a classroom and then delivering the program. I think that's just 10% of the work done. The 90% is the transferring the learning to the workplace. The 90% is in the person getting up and saying, I want to do something different about myself. Myself, not about the whole world, about myself, right? And that's the journey. So learning has an amazing mandate, but if we approach it right.
As you rightly said, people are complicated, and all of us come from different backgrounds, so we carry different experiences. And you've very beautifully outlined what separates someone with a mindset for growth and someone who does not have that mindset for growth. But it's a different ball game when you're dealing with large and diverse teams, because then it's a collective. How do you handle it? How do you inculcate growth mindset in large, and almost all the time when you're talking large, it's always diverse. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's not easy. That's not easy, especially because unfortunately we have this mob mentality. ABC is doing it, we have to do it. We don't question, is it right? Does it make sense? Am I growing? Am I really being a better person than what I was yesterday? We just go with the flow, right? And that is something where I think as leaders we're always challenged with, because that group, and therefore that setting aside that time, I always mention that to even to technical leaders, is that set aside that time to have those conversations where you're focusing completely on development, where you're giving each other the permission to say that, hey, if I find that my peer or my team member or even my leader is not adopting a growth mindset, can we pause them and say, hey, is that idea or is that feeling aligned more to fixed mindset or growth mindset? At least it's a checklist. Okay, I'm aware that's not the way I should be going, and I can again retract my course. So I think creating that safe space. We all talk about psychological safety, and again, unfortunately, it is more than just a program. It's more than just conceptual understanding. It's about actually making people feel that they're heard, they're valued, they're appreciated, no matter what, and then taking the time and the effort to enable the transformation to happen. It's not just to point a finger and eliminate. The question is to understand what's happening here, what are the root causes, So I am reminded of a person, I don't know whether you've heard this person. I used to do a lot of reading on his books. His name is Chris Argyris. Maybe the second name I'm not pronouncing it right because he's a Greek. But so he talks about a concept called single loop learning and double loop learning. Now, single loop learning is typically what we all do. There is a problem, I find a solution. Okay, and there is a matter. But double loop learning is where there is a problem, and then I don't just change the behavior, but I change the attitudes and the values that determine the behavior. Okay, so for example, if I've had an angry outburst, what will my leader say? That's not the way you should handle your team. Okay, that's single loop learning. So what I do is next time, keep quiet, don't say anything, but the emotions are still there.
Yes.
So the important thing is to say that, hey, what really caused that angry outburst? What really went wrong? So then you realize that there are values associated. Maybe I hate liars. I hate apathy. So when that comes in front of me, the angry outburst comes out. So it's then to determine that. And then I have to ask myself, hey, am I being judgmental? I don't have to still have an angry outburst. Yes, I'm particular about these qualities, but I can always change my, the storyline. I can always change how I communicate that. So there's a work in progress. So I think that is the key aspect of learning, is that can we enable double loop learning?
Thank you so much for explaining it so clearly. That was really, really insightful. So from what I understand, inculcating a growth mindset in a team requires active participation from both sides, from the leaders and the people who are being managed by them too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the leader has to be able to be authentic and vulnerable enough to say that, hey, I think I demonstrated a fixed mindset. I'm sorry about that. I mean, I don't know. We don't need to feel that we need to be on a pedestal. Can we be really authentic about it and say, hey, I think I slipped up there, and I'm going to try again, right? Because we are human beings. We cannot, even if we have all the right intentions, we could slip up for whatever reason. So yes, it's a two-way process, and I think a team can also enable the leader to be their best. So I tell that to my children. I say that, hey, if I'm coming out wrong, you have to point it out. Because if you don't point it out, I'm not aware. It could be my blind spot, and then I have to look for body language and say, oh, I think she's pissed off. So I think that makes it so much more easier, because there's a close partnership, and I don't feel as a leader that I need to be on there always trying to be perfect, but it's a partnership and collaboration.
And how is it different when you're dealing with fast hyper-growth product teams? Do they have the time?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because that's a challenge we always have, right? They say we don't have the time for learning. So my thing is that you may not have the time to attend learning workshop, which I'm fine with it, because we have other means of learning, right? We have just-in-time learning, the mood learnings, right? And you can go online, learn at your own pace, but have coaching conversations. So you have a dedicated 1 hour or 2 hours in a month. I'm sure the team can allocate 2 hours in a month where leaders are getting together, and then you talk about, I was learning this, and this is the challenge that I faced. So there's a peer coaching environment that is created, and that enables us to sharpen one another. As the saying goes, iron sharpens iron. So we have to sharpen each other. So otherwise, so when we say attend this workshop, attend that workshop, who has the time? Especially the middle managers, they are completely caught between the devil and the deep sea. They have to deliver, they have to motivate their team, they have to meet the deadlines, and now we are wanting to learn as well, which is required, but it doesn't have to be the traditional way of learning, where you have to go and sit in a classroom. If it works for them, it's great. And I think learning needs to be customized, because staccato kind of learnings are okay from a, like I said, conceptual understanding, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. So get them to learn. I think if we have very clear definitions of what are the competencies required at different levels, have those identified. What does it look like? What does good look like? Okay, where do I assessment tools to assess where are we today? And then I say, okay, I think I'm here. I've got the feedback. I need to be actually at 5, but I'm actually at 2. So what do I do to move from 2 to 5? So then the learning team can help them to define their learning path. And then it's about making that journey and transforming.
Understood. So when we've already partially discussed this, but when we're talking about L&D initiatives in organizations, how much of the success of that program can be attributed to the initiative and how much to the individual? What I really intend to ask is, do L&D initiatives work on their own, or are they dependent on the drive of the individual?
Of the individual, you mean the facilitator?
No. The person who is undergoing this initiative or who's covered in this initiative.
Okay,
the team.
The team, the participants.
Yeah.
It's both. I can be the best facilitator and do a fantastic workshop, the team goes back to their thing and things are remaining the same. In fact, so it's not just the facilitator and the team, it's also the ecosystem I'm creating to transfer learning to the workplace. Remember, learning, like we started off with, as your wonderful questions, it's about mindset, it's about attitudes. Those don't change overnight. I'm talking about years of living a certain way, believing a certain thing, looking at things in a certain way. I need to unlearn that. I need to rewire myself. So it's a continuous process. So we need to have that ecosystem. And all of them are equally responsible. And of course, I think the learning team is more responsible for ensuring that we're not just flogging program for the sake of flogging it. That's where the challenge is. You're just flogging 10 different programs. And what is actually achieved? What can we really have measurable outcomes? If that is not there, I think it's quite a wastage of time, budget, everything.
So can you tell us about a few initiatives that you've seen where the outcomes from the team or the potential of an individual has changed a lot as a result of this program?
Absolutely. I think I will talk about something that I was extremely passionate about. So there was an initiative that we drove, and I'm not going to name it because
you don't have
it's specific to the organization. But the whole conceptualizing of this entire body of work involved having a framework and being very particular about ensuring that we identify the specific needs and there is transfer of learning happening, and there are multiple touch points of learning. So learning as in a workshop style learning, there was peer coaching, okay, there's feedback from the supervisors. There was an ecosystem that we created with technology, because technology is an amazing enabler for us, right? So we partnered with our technology team and created a tool where we were able to actually have the metrics. Metrics not just in, okay, I attended this workshop and so many hours went into it, no. But what are some areas where the needle has moved? So we even conceptualized that and we created that, and we looked at specific areas like return on investment, leadership competencies, and of course, team engagement, right? Because that is what everybody's looking for. And we could see specific ways. But this is, again, requires commitment. It's not the standard, if you want to flog 10 programs across the organization, then this could not be the thing. So so learning team also needs to be empowered by the executives. You know, the learning team needs to be empowered. The executives also feel that this is crucial and are willing to invest into that function in actually going that route. So that was a program, an intervention where we saw a lot of things moving and changing. I had a lot of feedback from the leaders who gave their testimonials on what they did differently thanks to the program, because we created a peer coaching system as well. So they were able to get feedback from each other, from their fellow learners, right? So there are multiple things like that, and that was extremely important. So mentoring, coaching, all of this have to be woven into the learning fabric.
So a multi-tier
absolutely
intervention and a program. And can you talk a little about how the results have been?
The results have been extremely good for those who pursued it all the way. There have been people who didn't pursue it all the way, right? They said, okay, I'll do this, and then somewhere along the way. And then the learning team cannot be chasing after the people to do that.
True.
It's a self-driven motivation. I need to take accountability, say, hey, I've invested my time, my company's invested their time and resources, and I'm going to do something different. So the leader also needs to have those conversations. Okay, you've gone for this program. What have you done differently? How can I support you, right, to make those changes? Is there anything that you want to be done differently? So it's that. So a few people who've gone down that entire route, fantastic. I've had in multiple organizations such interventions which were done, where I've had people from India who went on to lead global teams. They were repositioned because their leadership competencies is really shot up. Now these are people who are hungry for it. So we used to have something called lunch and learn.
Okay.
Because we said leaders don't have the time. So I said, okay, you don't have the time, let's have lunch together and let's learn together. So we would learn during lunchtime.
Okay.
And then have this. So when the company was scaling, so we're talking about scale and growth, this was an organization that was scaling, and when we needed leaders to be positioned, and these guys were technically very strong, because we have the technical talent. They don't have the leadership capabilities or the soft skills. So once we gave them that, they were able to actually lead international teams. And I think that is a testimonial.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. Success for somebody like that, I think, is the highest level, at least on some degree.
Yeah, I think it's a great sense of satisfaction to feel that I had an opportunity to do something like that, because it gives meaning. When I bump into someone, in the corridor or near the water filter, and they say, "Hey, Asha, what you said there or what we did here, it really helped me not just in my work but also at home." Like, we had something on crucial conversations, okay, and this leader came up and said that I've changed the style of my conversation at home.
Oh,
So that makes me feel like, hey, I think we're doing something good, and I think I want to stay true to that kind of work.
speaking of, how do you define success, and has that definition evolved over the years for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when I started my career and in the initial part, it was all about me. Oh, I need to be visible. I need to learn this. I need to prove this. I need to do that, right? And then as I was aspiring towards leadership, I realized that's not leadership. Because when I'm an IC, so obviously I'm just thinking about me and my promotion and my visibility and all of that. But when I want to be a leader, I think only about my team. How do I get the best out of them, right? So that transformation happened. Then coaching, when I got certified as a coach, there was a different paradigm shift completely, because now you're looking at, when you're a subject matter expert, you also tend to have all the solutions because you know what needs to be done. And that's exactly what a coach should not be doing. A coach is not supposed to be telling.
Okay.
A coach is supposed to be getting out, creating the environment for them to think. The coach's role is not, so there's a lot of fad and confusion in the marketplace where coaching is misunderstood. But a coach's job is not to have all the answers. My job is to enable my coachee to think and come out with the answers. And for me to give that nudge, give that push, ask those questions to help them to think in that direction. Because a coach's goal is not to make them dependent on you.
Yeah.
The coach's goal is to make them self-sufficient, self-reliant. So that transformation was another thing which I believe was great. And then, of course, came the other aspect of success is not about a title. In some organizations, they may give you A title. Some organizations, they may give you a B title. So when we all hanker after title and promotions, after some time, they hold no meaning at all. Because I could be having a fancy title, but what is the quality of the work that I'm doing? What is the impact of the work that I'm doing? That is what defines my success. So today my success is, I think I define success of wanting to look after myself. There was a time, which I think I was mentioning when we were having a catch-up over coffee today, is that I was just a workaholic. I was just a workaholic who was just focused so much on my work. I'm still a little bit of a workaholic, but I intentionally try to create that balance between myself, making space for my exercise, my routines, which I enjoy, which makes me happy. And then, of course, taking care of my health. If I need to pause, I need to pause. If I need to take a break, I need to take a break. And I think it's also about understanding that success is also about being there for the people you love. For me, that's so important now. Today, my family needs me. My dad is going through dementia. I want to be there for him. So success is that I have been able to be a good daughter as well, a good mom, and not just a good employee. So you see, the definition has changed a lot, and I guess that comes with time and passage of time and age, I guess.
Not just that, but I think over time you have done enough to actually kind of fill all those buckets.
I guess so. I guess so. Yes, I've taken up a lot of different kinds of job roles, to be honest with you. I didn't plan for it, but it all worked out. It all converged beautifully. So here I am.
All right. Following on our previous conversation where we talked about leadership, mindset, and success, how important do you think is for leaders and managers to have self-awareness on a daily basis?
Super crucial. Self-awareness is the first step. Most of the time we do a lot of things because we're just not aware. So that's why I always say, let's be empathetic, because somebody is not deliberately trying to sabotage a company or a job.
Correct.
Right? They're just unaware. So I have extended a lot of empathy and a lot of compassion and given a long rope to my teams because I truly believe in that concept that self-awareness is important. And I also feel that I need to create that self-awareness for them, enable them.
How do you do that?
As a coach.
Of course.
As a coach, that's exactly what we do. We start with that.
Okay.
We ask those questions to help them to realize that is it reality or is it just a belief? Because most of our beliefs are not founded on reality.
Just our perception of what's happening.
Right. So when you create that understanding, then that aha moment comes, oh, it's not actually true. So then what would you like to now do differently? Because you know now that this is not true. Right? So it's a constant process. So self-awareness is extremely important. And I think leaders also need to be empathetic about making the time for that. See, most of the time we are just running. We're just running the race. There's no time to pause and reflect. And if you don't have pausing and reflection time, there is no question of having self-awareness.
Correct.
So that's it.
So is it a skill that can be developed over time?
Of course. It can be developed and it has to be continuously honed.
And now let's talk about how leaders can instill that into the team that they're managing.
Yeah, I think every leader needs to have a coaching mindset. I'm not saying that every leader needs to be a certified coach because that's not a viable proposition, right?
Sure.
But at least they need to lead as a coach, which means that I don't lead as, hierarchical. From a hierarchical standpoint, I am the leader, I will say this and you have to just execute. It doesn't work that way, right? It's about how do I see more in my team than they can see themselves. How do I then relate to them from that premise and help them to also find that potential and then channelize them to flourish in that area. So it's that mindset of a coaching mindset. It's a mindset again. A coaching system is not just following a process. It's about having that mindset of seeing potential, wanting to actualize the best potential, and asking questions rather than being quick to jump. Most of the time, unfortunately, as leaders, I think we have an ego issue. So we think that I need to have all the answers.
And I already have all the answers.
I already have all the answers. So I'm thinking for you. You just do it. Right? They don't want us to think for them. They want to think because they're all individuals with great potential. So how can I take a step back, give them that space and the time to think, and just be the nudge, just be the enabler. So leaders play a very important role. If you don't create that system, people are going to be frustrated. And I think especially with Gen Z. Gen Zs are looking for purpose. They're looking for meaning. If you don't create that, they weren't going to stick around.
True. So what mindset shifts do you recommend for people, our current Gen Z who's entering the workforce?
Okay, for the Gen Zs who are entering the workforce, the mindset shift, I wish I had a Gen Z right in front of me and we could ask them, what do you think you should be doing differently? But I think for the Gen Zs, I think what we need to do is accountability, I think, is a huge factor. For some reason, a lot of them, I wouldn't say all, and I don't want to again bucket it into the generation era of Gen Zs. This happens to anyone across all the different generations. But especially because there is, we come from a generation, I'm a Gen Xer, right? I come from a generation where we didn't have everything. We had to make everything happen, right? Gen Zs today, they have a lot at their disposal. They don't have any dearth of financial requirements. Stability is not their problem. We were waiting to be stable and we wanted to keep our jobs and stuff like that. They don't have that as their problem. So there could be a lax attitude. I don't want to do it, I can't do it, I can't do it now. Accountability could be a problem. Keeping commitments. I find that the millennials and keeping commitments needs to be something that we need to understand that trust is built only when we are able to keep our word. I can't say, yes, I'll do it, I'll deliver it, and then don't do anything. Don't even say, I'm sorry, I got delayed. I think I need extended time. That's okay. Or I can't do it, I'm stuck. That's also okay. But not saying anything, I've faced that multiple times, and that I feel is very sad because trust is broken. How do you build trust? So I think we need to help them to understand that your word is your brand ambassador. You say A and then you do B, you've lost your credibility completely. So we need to give them that awareness. They unfortunately feel that the credibility is all on the external, but it's not. Lasting credibility is not on the external. So I think that is something that is good. I'm not saying they all fall into that bucket, but it's an awareness that we need to create for them in that space.
For all the aspiring young professionals waiting to join the workforce, here's an expert insight for you. Your word is your brand ambassador. That was so lovely. Thank you so much.
My pleasure completely, and thank you.
So, how can organizations create space for inculcating this mindset for young professionals, which, as you say, is a little more important now than it has been? What's your advice for organizations?
Well, one is, of course, once organizations are aware that this is what I am embracing, okay, when I hire them, how do I set the expectations very clear from the beginning? Setting expectations also, I feel we don't spend much time doing that. Okay, it's just understood, JD is given, okay, that's your job role. We don't set the expectations in terms of the culture and the impact that we have on one another. That's the key element of what organizations need to do is at the time of onboarding, talk about the impact that each one of us has on the organization's culture. So organization might say, I have a culture of open culture, this, that. But the question is, it is only created by the people.
Correct.
So you are also a part of that, the process. So how are you going to add to the culture? I think when you ask those questions, I remember doing these values exercises with young professionals, and they had some brilliant ideas. The question is, are we asking them or are we just telling them? Right? So when I put them and asked them that, so when we did that exercise, I remember we had case studies where we actually asked them to give their ideas and how would you avoid these problem statements or these problem situations. It's always an aha moment for me to look at these youngsters and they come up with their presentation on, because they've actually put their thinking hats on. So I think we should understand that we should never undermine their capabilities, undermine their voice, right? So take them to be as your partner and ask them those questions, and they will have great ideas. That's one of the things that they can do, creating that space. And I think the other thing is, of course, creating opportunities for coaching to happen across the organization. I know I'm using the word coaching for quite a bit today, but because I truly believe that that's the deal breaker. You can create that transition to the workplace only because of that touch point. Mentors also play an amazing role. So having multiple avenues. So I think that's how you make sure that Gen Zs are aware and don't look at them as a problem. Look at them as part of the solution because they have some brilliant ideas.
They surely do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for an insightful conversation. It has been really great knowing about your insights about how important it is to have the right belief system and an openness for learning along with a growth mindset, not just for the success of an individual, but to build a robust organization as a whole. Now, before we wrap up this conversation, I would like to ask you a few quick questions so that we get a little more glimpse into your personal life.
Shoot away.
So, what is a belief that you used to hold that has worked really well for you that no longer does?
Oh, that no longer does. Yeah, I think I used to box maybe parenting style. I have to be the telling one. I need to be the one who has to protect my child. I need the one to be able to know what is good and what is not good. I don't hold that anymore. Thanks to my girls. I think they had the patience to deal with someone like me. Because I was a passionate mom and I was an extremely hovering over them like a mother hawk or whatever you call it.
Helicopter mom.
Helicopter mom. Not really a helicopter mom. I gave them that space, but I was extremely careful about their protection. Probably because I'm a single mom, right? So you feel like you need to be the dad and the mom, so you do all of that. But today I don't do that, thanks to them. I give them their space, and I know that they are amazing individuals. I've learned a lot from them. So the belief that a parent knows it all is a belief that I used to have, and I don't have that at all. I feel that we don't know at all. We have to learn from our kids. So yeah.
What is one belief that has helped you all through these years?
The one belief that has helped me all through the years is that there's someone much bigger. I believe in the. I mean, I'm very spiritual. I'm not religious at all, and I believe there's a power much greater than us. And I think it's foolish for man to feel that you have to have all the answers and you have to know it all. I think we are being very arrogant. We need to have the humility to bow down to that power and to learn, and to be able to pause when we need to pause, to step back when we need to step back. That's one thing that has been you won't believe it, that's been my steady ground throughout, and that's helped me to be very grounded. I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in life, extremely, excruciatingly painful circumstances, but this has been the only thing that's kept me going. And people say that, hey, I think you're a very strong person, or you're able to be calm. Not really, but it's just that I take it to the great power, and I leave it at his feet, and I come back completely rejuvenated. That's why I'm able to keep my sanity.
I think believing in that definitely gives us a sense of calm and comfort.
Absolutely. We are so privileged because we have someone to turn to, someone who's constant, is what I feel. So for me, it's a very personal relationship, so I say someone. Yeah.
So if you had to give an advice to your 25-year-old self from now, like if you can go back and talk to your 25-year-old self, what did you tell her?
Don't take things so seriously.
Okay.
Have some fun along the way. Take it easy. It's not going to be the same. Enjoy while you're at it. That's what I would say.
Lovely. It was really an insightful conversation that I truly, truly enjoyed today. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your insights. And I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has the same experience. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And I believe everyone who's been part of this conversation is taking back a wealth of insights, as I am too. We have a lot more insightful conversations lined up for you. In the meantime, keep learning, stay curious, and always believe in your potential.